recently tax evasion has come to the forefront, um, and two people that dealt with the president, Paul Manafort and Michael Cohen, were involved or are involved in it, and um, the IRS has been after them for fraud. For fraud, um, the the number of tax cases brought in the U.S., especially tax fraud, has declined severely in the last few years. There's just not that many cases being brought. Now, the government cut down the employees in the IRS by a third, so that's a third less people to work on them. And they also go after less tax evasion than they did 10 years ago. You know, tax evasion, you have to prove it, and if they want to go to a trial, you got to get trial, you have to have lawyers, and you know, the last year the IRS criminal division brought 795 cases in which tax fraud was the primary crime. That's for the whole United States. 795 doesn't sound like many with 300 million people. I know all 300 million don't pay tax, but a lot of them do. And it's declined about a quarter since in the last few years, the number of cases that they were bringing. And also, it's just changed because now most of your criminal cases are brought for drug trafficking and money laundering. That's the majority of the cases brought for tax fraud, drug trafficking, and money laundering. So all the other people, that doesn't include none of the other people that are in regular business. Like I know, say this guy Cohen, Paul Cohen, Trump's lawyer, he had money coming in, and I think the last 5 years he didn't turn in $4.1 million. So saving himself $1.5 million in taxes. And that was money that he got from his cab business and interest, and says he got $30,000 by the sale of a luxury handbag. I want to see that handbag.
Yeah, me too.
So none of that money was turned in, but he was, you know, they brought him up on tax fraud, as we all know. And then the other guy, one of Trump's people, Manafort, he mainly was involved in foreign banks. That's how he was working his tax fraud, by accounts in banks around the world. I don't know, corporations or whose name they were in, but basically that involved all the cases against Manafort. And I think Manafort and Cohen have both worked out guilty pleas in those cases lately. But the government's losing a lot of money each year from people that just aren't paying taxes, especially people in business, like the government business owners, like a guy selling hot dogs on the street or newspapers or whatever. The government has lost $125 billion a year in taxes each year because these people in these small little private businesses, they're not paying nothing. And you know, if they don't want to pay taxes, how are you going to catch up with them? You know, can you keep up with how many apples they sold a certain day or a certain week or a certain month or a certain year? What the apples cost them, less the rent, taxes, insurance, and they should pay tax on the difference. But they're not doing it. Now, the reason I said mainly small business is because if you work for a big company, at the end of the year, you get a W-2. And with that W-2, they take out the taxes. Now, you might get a refund, but it says how much they paid for you in federal taxes and state taxes. So it's real simple. But the people off the street that are in business for themselves, it's just hard to keep up with them. But I don't think it's just in this country either, down there selling lunches, this, that, and also restaurants, these small businesses that there's a lot of cash changing hands. You don't have to be a genius to figure out, I'm going to put the cash in the register or I'm going to put the cash in my pocket. And then the register still get money, but it could get enough money so at the end of the year you're showing the government you made zero. But the cash in this pocket, I don't know how we can get it, but I'm just telling you the way things are. And generally, that cash is going into people's pockets that are in business for themselves, and there's not paying taxes. Another way there would be people on criminal taxes is on audits. A lot of people are getting audited each year, and like 1.2 million audits the government does. And when the government does an audit, they say, well, and the guy says, well, I paid $100,000 last year to Joe Smith. Yeah, for what? I don't know. He sold me hot dogs, hamburgers, and all this. So that's a referral. Not that guy's name, Joe Smith. Now they go to his door, knock on, and say, hey, how you doing, Joe? Do you mind if we look at your books for a little while from last year? And they might look at his books, and he don't have where he got nothing down from the guy that says when he's under audit, he paid him $100,000 last year. So they get a lot of cases by referrals, and the way the referrals come up is whenever they audit you. If they come in and audit me or you, let's face it, a couple of IRS agents, most people are going to be talking, and they're going to be talking pretty hard. And if the IRS is taking down notes, and if enough people are saying, yeah, I'm buying all my merchandise from Joe Smith down in the warehouse, Joe Smith, Joe Smith, Joe Smith, and then they go down there and they say, Joe, can we look at your tax from last year? And then Joe gets in his car and drives off, because he never even filed tax last year. So there's a lot of money moving. He didn't pay no tax on the money, and those people who bought all this merchandise from him, they took it off as a legitimate deduction from their taxes in their business. But I don't know how they're going to change this, because the IRS keeps cutting off, there are more and more people cut off from IRS, and mainly it's people in business for themselves. If you get a W-2 in your hand, I don't care what you do with it. You could try to burn it or whatever. You're not going to change that W-2. And that says how much you made for the year. It says how much they took out for taxes sent to the government for federal taxes, and how much they took out for state taxes. So all that money's in. So you can't start thinking at the end of the year, I'm going to start stealing some money. No, you can't steal nothing, because it's all in. That's a W-2. Now, the people, unless you had a business on the side, some type of business that you ran out of your house, or sold, animals, or had a farm or something like that, and you were raising some chickens on the side, and selling the chickens and the eggs and things like that. I know it's funny in a way, but there's tons and tons of people, that's what they do. And I'm not saying any one person does it, and I'm not turning
or sell your
in.
personal belongings.
Yeah, I'm not turning nobody in, because I don't know what they pay and what they don't pay, and who their accountant is. Because one thing, before they even come to you, they're going to go to your accountant. He's the guy that signed these tax returns, and they say, okay, you sign, you drew up these tax returns, right? And the man signed it, right? Well, what evidence did he bring you? What did you look at? Did he bring you receipts or where he was purchasing cars from this guy, each year cars, buying them, selling them, whatever? Because how did you come up with the information to do his return? And generally, your accountant will put down whatever you tell him. And if there are a lot of things that you did and you don't tell him, then he's not going to put them down. He's not a mind reader. Although when he's going over your sheets, your in and out sheets, checks, and all that, he could say, "Who'd you make this check to?" Because I assume he would like to look at your checking accounts, so you could deliver. You bring the information, you give him your checking accounts, and that'll have a lot of the information set out in your business. Those checking accounts, who you wrote checks to during the month, who you wrote checks to, and it'll also show if you're putting all your money like you're supposed to into the bank, the gross going into those checking accounts. Because if you're paying out $200,000 and you only have $100 going in, for the whole year, then where's the other $100, that pay those bills? And then the other thing, you pay the bills, and then where's the rest of the money that you made for yourself? Well, we'll go into this more in a later date because we're getting close to tax filing at the end of the year, and there are some questions people can send in, and I'll take them, and then we'll go over them for all the rest of our people around the world, and let's see what happens. Thank you.